Can ducks really pay for their own feed? Welcome back to Farmyard Care, where we look at practical, sustainable ways to make your land work smarter for you. If you have ever stood near your poultry pen, watched your birds eat through another bag of feed and wondered, am I raising them or are they raising my expenses? Then this topic is worth your attention. Let's be honest, for many small farmers and homesteaders, feeding poultry can feel like pouring money into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You buy the feed, clean the coop, manage the bedding, watch for health problems, and then hope the eggs or meat at the end of the season can justify the cost. Chickens are useful, no doubt, but there is one farm animal that too many people still underestimate: the duck. A good duck is not just another mouth to feed. It can be a working asset on your farm. The right duck can help control pests, turn insects and weeds into eggs, reduce your workload, and create a steady return year after year. In the right setup, some ducks do more than pay for themselves. They help improve the whole farm system around them. Here is what many beginners never hear early enough. One strong laying duck can produce over 300 eggs a year, and duck eggs often sell for much more than chicken eggs at a farmer's market. That same duck may need less feed, have fewer health issues, and continue producing long after many laying hens have slowed down. Duck meat can also bring 2 to 4 times the price of chicken per pound. And while an average hen may start declining after about 18 months, a productive duck can keep working for 6, 7, or even 8 years. But choosing the right breed matters. Pick the wrong duck, and you may end up with noise, mess, poor production, and wasted feed. Pick the right one, and you gain eggs, meat, pest control, fertility for your soil, and a much stronger return on your investment. Today, we are going to look at the economics, the history, and the practical strengths of waterfowl. These are 11 highly profitable duck breeds that can truly earn their place on the farm. Let's get started. Part 1. The Khaki Campbell, the unrivaled egg machine. If you had space for only one duck breed on your farm, many experienced keepers would tell you to start with the Khaki Campbell. This breed was developed in England in the late 1800s by Adele Campbell, who crossed Indian runners, Rouens, and wild mallards. When she achieved the warm brownish khaki color she wanted, she named the bird after the British Army uniform color used during the Boer War. The Khaki Campbell became famous for one simple reason: eggs. This breed once recorded 346 eggs in 365 days, and in the 1920s, Dutch farmers regularly averaged around 335 eggs per bird in large flocks. Today, a well-managed Campbell can still produce 250 to 340 eggs a year. While many high-production chickens slow down sharply after their second year, a good Campbell can keep laying strongly for several seasons, sometimes even longer. The profit potential is where this duck really stands out. A Campbell hen weighs only about 4 pounds, so she does not eat heavily. On good pasture, she can forage 50 to 70% of her own diet by finding insects, slugs, and weed seeds. That can bring annual feed costs down to around $18 to $30 per bird. If one duck lays 300 eggs a year and those eggs sell for $8 a dozen, she can bring in roughly $200. After feed costs, that is a strong return from one small bird. Now, the Khaki Campbell is not usually a cuddly backyard pet. It is alert, active, and a little nervous, but that is not a weakness. This is a duck bred for production. If your goal is steady eggs, loyal customers, and real farm income, the Khaki Campbell is one of the best places to begin. Part 2. The Indian Runner, the ancient pest control employee. You can recognize an Indian runner almost immediately. It stands upright like a bottle on legs and moves quickly, as if it has important work to do. And in a farm system, it really does. Despite the name, Indian runners did not originate in India. They came from the Indonesian islands of Java, Lombok, and Bali more than 2,000 years ago. For centuries, farmers used them in rice paddies, moving large flocks through the fields to eat slugs, snails, and insect larvae. That same value still applies today. If you grow vegetables, berries, or fruit, pests like slugs and snails can become a serious problem. Chickens often scratch up seedlings, disturb mulch, and damage the soil surface. Indian runners work differently. They use their bills to search the surface for pests without tearing the garden apart. This is why I like to think of the Indian runner as a working employee, not just a pet. It can lay 150 to 300 eggs a year, often with attractive pastel green or blue-green shells that can sell for a premium. It weighs only 3 to 5 pounds and, on active pasture, may find 50 to 75% of its own food. A good runner flock reduces pest pressure, adds manure to the soil, lowers feed needs, and still gives you valuable eggs. For a garden-based farm, that is a very useful bird. Part 3. The Jumbo Pekin, the fast cash commercial king. The Pekin is different from the first two breeds because it is mainly about meat production. In fact, Pekins are the foundation of the modern duck meat industry, and over 90% of duck meat produced in the United States comes from this breed. Its story began in 1872, when James Palmer shipped 15 white ducks from Shanghai. After a difficult 124-day journey, only a few survived, but those remaining birds helped create the base of a major commercial industry. The reason is simple. Pekins grow fast. Modern commercial Pekins can reach 7.5 to 8 pounds in only 6 to 8 weeks. Their feed conversion can be very efficient, sometimes as low as about 1.8 to 1.92 pounds of feed for each pound of body weight. For a small producer, that speed means quicker turnover and faster cash flow. Pastured whole duck can sell for $8 to $12 per pound, and rendered duck fat can bring strong prices in specialty markets. That makes the Pekin one of the most predictable meat ducks for direct sales. But there are trade-offs. Pekins are not strong foragers. They may find only 10 to 20% of their diet from pasture, so most of their nutrition comes from purchased feed. They eat a lot, create a lot of manure, and rarely go broody. Still, if your goal is a premium duck meat business with fast, reliable production, the Jumbo Pekin is hard to ignore. Part 4. The Muscovy, the self-sufficient, silent hunter. Here is something that surprises many beginners. The Muscovy is not a true duck in the usual sense. It belongs to a different genus, Carina, and comes from South America rather than from the wild mallard line. When a Muscovy is crossed with a mallard-derived duck, the offspring, often called mule ducks, are sterile. That genetic difference is exactly why Muscovies bring traits you do not see in most domestic ducks. The first advantage is noise, or more accurately, the lack of it. Muscovies do not quack. Males usually make a low hiss, while females produce a soft trilling sound. If you have nearby neighbors, a Muscovy flock is far easier to live with than a noisy group of laying ducks. As meat birds, Muscovies are highly valued. Their breast meat is very lean, with far less skin fat than typical duck meat, and the flavor is closer to veal or lean beef than the rich, fatty taste many people expect from duck. Whole Muscovy can sell for around $8 to $12 per pound at retail, but their greatest value is self-sufficiency. Muscovies are excellent foragers. They hunt fleas, mosquitoes, ticks, cockroaches, and other pests, and some keepers even report them catching small mice. They can also perch in trees and on fence posts, which gives them better predator awareness than many other ducks. The hens are another major advantage. A good Muscovy hen will sit through the full 35-day incubation and raise her ducklings with very little help. No incubator, no extra electricity, and far less human intervention. For a homesteader who wants a quiet, hardy pest controller that also produces premium lean meat, the Muscovy is one of the most valuable birds you can keep. Part 5. The Welsh Harlequin, the homestead's best-kept secret. The Welsh Harlequin began with a genetic accident and survived because dedicated breeders refused to let it disappear. In 1949, a retired Royal Air Force captain in Wales noticed two unusually pale ducklings in his flock of Khaki Campbells. Instead of removing them, he bred them, and those birds became the foundation of the Welsh Harlequin. The breed later came close to extinction more than once. By 1980, it was being kept alive by only 2 small flocks. That history shows how strongly people valued this duck, and once you understand its practical traits, it is easy to see why. One of its most useful features is early sexing. At hatch, Welsh Harlequin ducklings can often be sexed with 85 to 90% accuracy by looking at bill color. Males usually have darker bills, while females tend to have lighter bills with a dark spot. For a beginner, that can save time, money, and mistakes when planning a flock. Welsh Harlequins are true dual-purpose ducks. They can lay 250 to 325 large white eggs per year, and at 4.5 to 5.5 pounds, they also provide lean, clean plucking meat. But what makes them especially valuable for a homestead is their natural mothering ability. Unlike many high-production breeds, they still go broody, hatch ducklings, and help replace your flock naturally. They are calm, curious, attractive, and productive. For someone starting with ducks and wanting eggs, meat, and sustainability in one breed, the Welsh Harlequin is one of the best all-around choices. Part 6, the Ancona, the camouflaged foraging master. No two Anconas look exactly alike. Their broken black and white mottled feathers are unique from bird to bird, much like a fingerprint, and many people compare their pattern to a Holstein cow. Although the name sounds European, the Ancona duck was developed in New York around 1913. By the year 2000, fewer than 125 breeding Anconas remained in the United States, making this a critically endangered heritage breed. For a small farmer, that rarity can become an opportunity, especially if you care about conservation and specialty markets. Anconas lay around 210 to 280 eggs per year, and their eggs can be a real attraction at a farm stand. One flock may produce eggs in white, cream, blue, blue-green, and sometimes even spotted shells. Instead of keeping several breeds just to create a colorful egg basket, Anconas can give you that variety on their own. They also grow well for meat, reaching around 6 pounds in about 9 weeks, with lean and flavorful carcasses. But their strongest economic advantage is foraging. Given decent pasture, Anconas can gather a large portion of their nutrition from the land, helping lower feed costs. Their mottled feathers are not only beautiful, they also help them blend into the landscape, offering some natural protection from aerial predators like hawks and eagles. With colorful eggs, useful meat, strong foraging ability, and natural camouflage, the Ancona brings a lot of value to a practical homestead. Part 7, the Magpie, the Gorithes vibe. The magpie duck was developed after World War I in Wales and Yorkshire during a time when feed was scarce, and every farm animal had to earn its place. This breed survived because it could do more with less. Magpies are strong foragers and can find roughly 2/3 of their own diet when given active pasture. For a small farm, that means lower feed bills and better profit margins. They also produce 220 to 290 eggs per year, often in white, cream, and green-blue shells. At 4.5 to 6 pounds, magpies are useful meat birds too. Their meat is often described as gourmet quality, and because they have light-colored underbellies, their carcasses clean up well during processing with fewer visible pin feathers. One benefit many people overlook is their value on livestock pasture. Magpies can help reduce liver fluke problems by eating the snails involved in that parasite cycle. If you raise cattle, sheep, or goats, this can protect your larger animals and save real money over time. They are quiet, hardy, efficient, and can live 9 to 12 years. Sometimes the most profitable bird is not the flashiest one. It is the one that costs little to keep and keeps producing reliably year after year. Part 8, the Aylesbury, the heritage premium table bird. The Aylesbury has one of the richest histories in duck farming. In 18th century England, families in the town of Aylesbury even raised ducklings inside their homes in wooden boxes lined with hay. When the birds were ready for market, drovers walked them around 40 miles to London. Along the way, they used coal tar and sawdust to protect the ducks' feet like crude little shoes. For centuries, the Aylesbury was England's finest table duck. It was prized for tender, fine-grained meat, white skin, and its pale pink bill. But when the faster-growing Pekin became popular, the Aylesbury declined and eventually became critically endangered. So why raise a duck that only lays 35 to 125 eggs a year? The answer is culinary tradition and conservation. High-end chefs and farm-to-table restaurants may pay a premium for a true purebred Aylesbury. Because the breed is so rare, pure hatching eggs and ducklings can also command strong prices. If you have the patience to maintain a pure breeding flock, you are not just raising ducks. You are preserving a historic breed, the same type that inspired Beatrix Potter's Jemima Puddle duck. The Aylesbury proves that rarity, quality, and tradition can all have real market value. Part 9. The Rouen, the flavorful slow grower. The Rouen looks much like a wild mallard, with green-headed drakes and brown mottled hens. The difference is size. A Rouen is much heavier and cannot fly, like a mallard that traded speed for a solid farm body. But there is one important detail. There are two different types of Rouen. Exhibition Rouens are huge showbirds, often 9 to 12 pounds, but they grow slowly and may lay only 25 to 50 eggs a year. Some hens can even become heavy enough to damage their own eggs. For practical farm use, the better choice is the production Rouen. These birds usually weigh 6 to 8 pounds, forage well, and lay around 140 to 180 eggs per year. The French have raised Rouen ducks along riverbanks since 1555, valuing them as reliable utility birds. Their slower growth is not a weakness if you sell to customers who care about flavor. That extra time allows the meat to develop richer fat, better texture, and deeper taste than a fast-grown Pekin. For farmers selling directly to high-end buyers, the production Rouen is calm, long-lived, useful, and full of flavor. Part 10. The Buff Orpington, the elegant dual-purpose marvel. If you want a duck that combines beauty with steady usefulness, the Buff Orpington is worth a close look. This breed was created in the early 1900s by William Cook, the same breeder who developed the famous Buff Orpington chicken. With its soft, fawn buff feathers, this medium-sized duck is attractive, calm, and practical. It can reach 7 to 8 pounds, making it a solid meat bird for a small farm. At the same time, buff hens are dependable layers, producing about 150 to 220 large, white-tinted eggs each year. What makes the Buff Orpington so useful is balance. It does not sacrifice everything for eggs, and it does not focus only on meat. It gives you both in a steady, manageable way. These ducks are gentle, easy to work around, and good natural foragers. For a homesteader, that flexibility matters. If egg demand is strong, they can help fill cartons. If meat customers increase, they still have enough size to be worthwhile. And with their warm, apricot-colored plumage, they also make any green pasture look more alive. Part 11. The Cayuga, the black egg wonder. The Cayuga is the duck that makes people stop and stare. If someone told you a duck could lay dark, almost black eggs, it might sound impossible. But early in the laying season, Cayuga hens can produce eggs coated with a deep charcoal pigment. As the season goes on, those eggs gradually change color, moving from black to gray, olive, blue-green, and eventually white. The dark coating is on the outside of the shell, and on a fresh egg, some of it can even rub off with a damp cloth. For a farmer's market, that is powerful. A carton with black, olive, and greenish eggs does not look ordinary. People notice it, ask questions, take photos, and often pay more because the product feels rare and memorable. That is where the Cayuga creates value beyond normal egg pricing. The Cayuga is also special because it is the only duck breed developed entirely in the United States, coming from New York's Finger Lakes region. Its black feathers shine with green and purple in the light, making it one of the most striking ducks on a farm. Cayugas lay about 100 to 150 eggs a year, handle cold winters well, and produce meat with a deep, rich flavor that many enthusiasts appreciate. This breed proves that profit is not always about the highest egg count. Sometimes it comes from having something customers cannot stop talking about. The climax, how they pay for themselves, the IRDFS system, and beyond. Now you may be wondering, how do these ducks actually lower feed costs and improve the whole farm? One of the best examples is the integrated rice duck farming system. In countries like China, Japan, and the Philippines, farmers release ducks into flooded rice fields. The ducks eat destructive insects, including plant hoppers, and can remove 98 to 100% of certain pest pressure. That reduces the need for costly chemical pesticides. At the same time, their manure adds natural fertilizer rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Their movement through the water also helps the rice. As their webbed feet paddle through the field, they stir the water, stimulate plant growth, and encourage stronger tillering. This system can also help reduce methane emissions from the field. In the Philippines, rice yields have been reported to rise from 4.2 tons to as much as 9 tons per hectare using this approach. The ducks feed on pests and weeds, cutting commercial feed needs by 30% or more. They can also help control disease risks by eating infected snails linked to problems such as schistosomiasis. And you do not need a rice paddy to use the same idea. In an orchard, vineyard, vegetable garden, or pasture system, ducks can control pests, fertilize the soil, and turn free insects into valuable eggs and meat. The best ducks do not just live on the farm. They help manage it.